I'm Brandon Amoroso, and this is the D2Z Podcast, building and growing your business from a Gen Z perspective. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to D2Z, a podcast about using the Gen Z mindset to grow your business. I'm Gen Z entrepreneur Brandon Amoroso, the former founder of Electric, and now the co-founder of Scaleless. And today I'm talking with Chris Brisson, who's the founder and CEO at Sales Message, which is a simple, secure, and scalable business texting software. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brandon. Excited to be here.
So before we dive into things, can you give everybody just a quick background on yourself and your entrepreneurial journey?
Yep. Quick story. I got started young. So my first business, I started when I was 19. So I sold rims and tires on eBay and built that business up. It was sort of my first e-commerce business, if you were to say that. This is 2002, so it was a long time ago. Built that business up, ended up selling that in 2005. Vowed never again to sell physical stuff. And so went into just learning everything I could about copywriting, creating courses, writing books, writing ebooks, doing product launch consulting, and then really just fell in love with software. So built a couple products throughout that time period. Started a company in 2010 called Call Loop, which still exists today. That's in the messaging space, so calling, outbound texting, SMS marketing. And then spun out Sales Message in about 2017, 2018. And so Sales Message, is your conversational texting, business texting platform, calling, texting, focused on really on the messaging side. And helping companies use SMS as a way to engage leads, qualify leads, capture them, convert them, and drive revenue through SMS.
How have you gone about the funding aspect of all these businesses you've started? Or have you primarily bootstrapped, or have you gone the fundraising path at all?
Bootstrapped them all. Every company I started, I bootstrapped. I think, I was talking about it with my wife the other day. I think I invested maybe $5,000 in Sales Message. So, today it's a multi-million dollar company. And so it's always been bootstrapped. I did raise $90,000 for Call Loop. This is back in 2012. And I never felt good about that. I always felt that it definitely changed things. And so my relationships I had with my two investors, the guilt I had about not growing fast enough. So I've always leaned away from taking on investor cash just because, it changed everything. And, I always wanted to perform and go above and beyond when things weren't working out, or when they were working out. It was a little bit weird, but I always bootstrapped everything. Sales Message was pretty much bootstrapped, Call Loop bootstrapped for the most part. But every company I've started, I've always bootstrapped. I did try and raise money and learned very quickly, this is years and years ago, it didn't have that $1 billion exit opportunity. And it was a good exercise for sure. I went to San Francisco and did the whole round and did all that thing. I'm like, you know what? I actually don't want to do this. So, I think even today, I've been playing with Lovable and Replit and building out some just apps that have been on my mind for a long time. Things that solve little micro problems for me and internally within Sales Message. You can bootstrap a company pretty quickly for nothing. And get to profitability very quickly.
Yeah, I think the trend in 2025 is for founders to go that path. Whereas right during the COVID heyday, people were raising money left and right. And I think there's a lot of businesses, to your point, who maybe went the fundraising route that would have been better served bootstrapping because they don't have, it's just not $1 billion opportunity business. There isn't anything wrong with that. It's just not set up to go the funding path.
Yeah. And in most cases, I have some friends like, I'm going to go and raise money. I'm like, well, one, let's even see if your business is investable. And in most cases, the business is either a service business or a consulting business. It's just not investable. So no investor is going to want to invest in that because it's built around you and your knowledge and your skill set. It's not going to get a big return for them. So, I think most companies that may think they need to go and raise cash actually are not even investable to begin with. And they may waste a lot of time, a lot of cycles. Come to find out, you should have just been selling. You should have just been generating revenue the whole time. So I'm not a big proponent of it. Because again, I think you can build a great company without that,
How do you balance then, managing your cash flows and growing and scaling a business without being able to like hire prematurely? You really have to be super dialed in on when you can start to bring in new team members. Um, how have you gone about managing that for sales message?
Yeah. Fortunately, when I started Sales Message, I had another business that was generating like personal income. And so that kept me afloat. And so funny enough, I looked at, we use JustWorks for payments and everything. And come to find out, wow, I didn't pay myself for like almost 4 years. And I was like, holy crap. And I think I went into that saying, hey, I want to be able to build this business, not killing my dogs. I remember I sold one of my companies years and years ago, and the guy that bought it, he's like, know why you couldn't ever grow this business? It was a course. It was a credit repair course I created because I had bad credit back in the day. And he's like, you know why the business never really grew is because you ate your dogs. Essentially, you ate all the profit out of the company, and you couldn't really reinvest in building it. So with Sales Message, I took a different approach, which was I don't want to take any cash out of the business. I want to continue to invest and build that out. And so, when you're building a software company, the biggest expense is people and development. And so being able to, work with a co-founder, work with somebody that is skin in the game that either A, can take a discount in exchange for equity, or they're part of the journey in the beginning, and they're able to build, and you're able to sort of build. Like, I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder. I'm very technical, but when it comes to building a product, I can't do that. So I always had to find a co-founder in order to sort of build up those businesses. So I think there comes a certain point where like early on, I was doing demos, I was doing calls, one for like product discovery development. And then, it got to a certain point where like, man, I can't be in 6, 7, 8 demos a day and build the business. So, there just comes a point where you need to hand that stuff off. And more importantly is once you can hand it off to the right person that can sell and generate sales for you, it's the best thing. So sales, I would say, is like that first hire for sure. And being able to like generate cash, which you can reinvest in growth.
How did you go about finding your co-founders? Because I've heard horror stories of bad co-founder matches, and then I've also heard, the successful stories as well, where you can even imagine having built that business without the other.
Yeah. I mean, with Call Loop, this was 2011, 2010. So I had an idea, and I just found, some different APIs that were out there that allowed sort of voice technology. So I reached out to the company, asked them if they had any resources to help get this built. They introduced me to one of the developers, and that developer ultimately became my business partner for Call Loop. So he was the developer, he built the product, he was still working full time, and ended up buying him out, I want to say in 2015, something like that. But then on the Sales Message side, I was working with a friend of mine, and he was building some other apps and some other sort of things we were playing with. And long story short, we ended up like sort of partnering up, and then went and built Sales Message. But that didn't work out. And so, I think he was a little bit younger in the sense. And so we ended up parting ways, and I ended up finding a new co-founder in 2020. So that previous co-founder was with me for the beginning stages, but in order for the business to sort of see that next level, it needed someone a lot more senior, and it was probably the best decision. Found a great co-founder. He's still with me today, Sergey, and we built a great product, a great company, a great tech development team, and he's been a big part of that. I couldn't have done that by myself, and certainly not with the previous team. So I got introduced to him through a friend of mine who runs sort of a CTO mastermind. And I reached out to him, let him know what was going on, and he introduced me to some folks and had a great conversation with Sergey. He helped out with some stuff. I had to like offboard the team, and we just started working together. And through that working relationship, he sort of became that new co-founder slash CTO, and that was 2020, so that, almost 5 years ago. So
Yeah, it really is a leap of faith at first, but if you can sort of walk before run with those partnerships, which it sounds like he stepped in and you got to work with him a little bit before you made the full leap, I
yeah,
found that to be a good
yeah,
way to test the waters, at least in terms
yeah,
of
and
working
also
together.
too, it's like, you want the right partner where you have a good sort of Venn diagram overlap. And so, I recently was going to partner up with a friend of mine, and we did, like, formed a company and did some other things to just build this little app, and realized, like, wow, we're actually more of the same. And so that, wouldn't work out. I'm glad we sort of realized that early on. And because we were both, like, similar in the skill sets that we could offer. And so it just got to where I was like, hey, you know what? Actually, I don't want to do this. And I know you don't want to do this. And so we just end up parting ways, still remain friends. But unless there's a true differentiator in skill set, then it may not work, right? Because you're just sort of now competing against the same set of things that you're both going to do. And so like, there has to be a clear delineation between, like, hey, I'm going to handle this part of the house and you're going to handle this part of the house. But if it's two of the same people and they're both doing marketing and both doing messaging, it doesn't tend to work out as well. At least that's been
Yeah.
my experience.
I mean, I find it far more effective to be able to divide and conquer. And there's still, a little bit of overlap, so you can be in, sync with one another, and can at least have some sort of working dynamic there. But at least in the case of our new business, I have had 25 years of experience of being very different than my brother, who's the co-founder in this organization. So it was very obvious who was going to own which parts and who was going to own the others.
Yeah.
And that has worked out pretty well because of the difference. If we were the same person, then again, to your point, it would just be, competing for the same, thing, and there would be gaps that would not be filled by the other.
Right. And then you'd have to hire somebody to fill the gap. And so, early on, it's like, who's going to be filling in all the gaps? Because you only have so much money, time, resources. And if you can move together, then you can close the gap. But if you've got one really strong area, but then there's this other part of the business that just needs to get full, well, then who's going to do it? And either you got to learn it, which may or may not be the skill set you want to learn, or you got to hire for it and bring in somebody in there. Yeah. So, you got to have a pretty solid foundation from team to get it sort of bootstrapped up.
So hopping over to the product side and what you've built, and given all the experience that you have in the messaging space, how should business owners be thinking about SMS and a platform like yours in a B2B perspective? As most of my SMS background and knowledge is in D2C, you're sending promotions or campaigns. It's a one-to-many relationship. How should business owners be thinking about SMS as it relates to more B2B interests?
Yeah, I mean, the way that we look at it is it's through a framework called Textize. And so what that means is, messaging can play a part in the entire life cycle. So whether you're a B2C company or B2B company, like, it's all the same. And so, Textize there's 4 parts. You have capture, connect, convert, and care. And so it's all based on this sort of philosophy, but our philosophy is, we believe conversations are good for business. The way in which we help businesses create more conversations is through a framework called Textize Your Business. And then ultimately we have the technology and sales message to, like, help implement that. So the way to look at that is, well, you can use texting to generate leads, right? So somebody can go on the website and do a live chat and you can capture a lead. You can do, text to join. You can have somebody call you and you can automate, a missed call automation and start a conversation. Somebody can, buy a product and then they can get SMS reminders. They could fill out a web form, right? There's all the different ways in which you can capture leads, and then SMS is a part of that. And so capture leads, right? You can connect, have those two-way conversations. Now with AI, you can build in these automated conversations. So, can use your brand voice, you can engage with them, in two-way, and again, capture data, push that data to, like, your CRM, You can use it to drive revenue, right? So typical SMS marketing, campaign promotional type stuff. But you can use it to capture reviews, right? Generate feedback, and take these people, turn them into referrals, and now they become a referral source. So that's sort of the framework to look at it is, hey, I can textize my business. I can add texting in all the different areas, generate leads, book appointments, remind people of the meeting or appointment or schedule, generate revenue, win back customers, get reviews, get referrals, right? So that's how we look at it. And most companies that are really coming into it, SMS marketing has been sort of the old traditional way, like, hey, it's one-way texting. But now, as more consumers are not picking up their phone, not responding to email, they're leaning on SMS. And so businesses need to lean into, hey, how are we using texting? When somebody goes to our website and they call us or they text us, are we actually getting those texts? And so sales message sort of fills that gap. So you can use it for two-way conversational text, for calling, for SMS marketing, right? All those different use cases. So everybody is generating leads. And the question is, well, what are they doing with those leads? You're either calling them, you're emailing them, and now you're texting them. So
you mentioned integrations, and I think that's one of the key points. And I stumbled across your business way back, I believe in 21, when the agency that I was running was a HubSpot Platinum partner at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe we actually use your solution within HubSpot. But I think that integration component is so critical because you're not asking somebody to, transition CRMs. You're just plugging into what they already have in place, and it's an additive component to what the prospect lifecycle or customer lifecycle could look like. How did you go about identifying, like, HubSpot is an area we should integrate, or Pipedrive is a new platform that we should move into? How did you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I came from like the Infusionsoft world. So, we used Infusionsoft. So we integrated into Infusionsoft, and we integrated into ActiveCampaign, and then we integrated into HubSpot. And so when I look at like, well, what's the customer profile? ActiveCampaign is really heavy on the automation side. So it's going to be more SMS marketing, right? Keep, same thing, small business, going to lean on more automation because they don't have team and people. And when you look at like, okay, well, what's the actual business profile for a business that's going to use two-way texting or, like conversational messaging? And so HubSpot was a good integration. So, we integrated, I want to say 2019, 2020, something like that, when their app marketplace was sort of brand new. And it just worked, because again, those businesses were heavy on inbound marketing, right? They're heavy on conversations. And so messaging and texting just played a good part of that. And, we've gone deep on the HubSpot ecosystem. So if you use HubSpot, by all means, like, check out Sales Message. And so they have, Sales Hub, Marketing Hub, Service Hub, Operations Hub. So we integrate super deep in all those different hubs. So your sales team can use it. Your marketing team can use it. You integrate into workflows. Your customer support team can use it with tickets. So all across the whole company, you can essentially integrate messaging, right? You can textize your business. So HubSpot, just the signals were there. And so that's why we just continued to double down and go deeper and deeper and deeper on the integration. HubSpot always exposes new access, new APIs, like new ways in which that we can extend our integration even more. And so, that's why HubSpot is, because that's really where the customer was. We do integrate into other tools. Like, we've got a pretty good Salesforce one. That's a different beast in itself. That's more enterprise, right? Sales cycles, totally different. But HubSpot for us is sort of our main integration.
We use the Sales, Service, and Marketing Hub, so I'm gonna have to go check it out after this podcast, see if we can leverage it.
Yeah.
As it relates to like opt-in and managing that entire process, is that something that you take on, or is that beholden on the customer?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a pretty simple system to go through that process, but the carriers, years ago, you could send text to anybody, upload a list, send text, and get your message through behind a short code or just provision a phone number. Carriers got pretty smart, and they're like, look, if we're going to keep this channel clean, we've got to set up some, some structure so we can keep it clean. So they really want to know two things, like who you are and what you're sending, right? So this whole know your customer, KYC. So, hey, I know your business, you're a real business. And hey, what's the type of messages you're sending? Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's customer care, whatever. So they can walk through that process. So if you're going to get a local number, there's something called 10DLC, just stands for like 10-digit long code. But you go through an approval process through sales message. We submit it to the carrier. We've actually got some good AI stuff because most people are like, oh, well, let me just submit it and submit whatever data over to the carrier. But they don't realize like it's not us. It's actually the carriers that are going to review it. And the carriers are the ones that will say, yes, this is compliant and we approve it, or no. And so people can't just assume they can put in whatever they want and then it gets approved, right? Because if you don't get approved, you can't send texts. So we built some pretty cool AI tech to review it, take a look at it, and ultimately like help our customers make the right decisions around getting approved, right? Because they got to update some stuff in their web form and whatnot. But they can walk through it. It's pretty simple. It's just a form. Tell us information about your business, where people filling out, a form to capture an email. And you submit that stuff. We send it off to the carriers. Either it comes back approved, it comes back rejected with some suggestions, and they just go through that process. But it's fairly quick. Within a couple of days, they can get approved and then send text. But everybody has to do it. It's not like a individual thing. It's every company.
Yeah, that makes sense. One last question for you as it relates to your favorite use cases of sales message. Is there a way that you use it internally for your own business that you think, every other company should be leveraging it for that way as well?
Yeah. Like, I was helping a friend in auditing his business because there's so many opportunities that people don't realize. So I think one of the hidden ones is most people, I would say most, older businesses, maybe they're using a landline. And so that landline traditionally is only calling, it's not texting. So what they can do is we can text enable that number. And so that number becomes textable and they realize, oh my gosh, there's people actually that are trying to text me. So that's just like a hidden gem of leads and opportunities that people are trying to message you. The other, I think, a lot of these strategies are not revolutionary. And so that's why like SMS, you don't see a lot of courses on it because it's like, you're just sending a text message. You don't have to learn copywriting, right? Like there is some strategy around all of that. But one super simple one, like this is obviously most D2C type stuff. But one of the ones like we have a lot of speakers and so they're in front of an audience. So a buddy of mine, this is a very old strategy, but it still works. So he was speaking in front of 150 people, a simple text to join keyword, and I'm generating over 100 leads. So text to join or scan a QR code, go into an SMS sort of AI agent. That AI agent is capturing your name, your email, square footage, like whatever custom data. And he generated all those leads and then put those leads in HubSpot and started a whole automation sequence. So, the future is really, well, how can you turn all these mechanisms into lead gen, putting them into an AI agent to have those conversations, to capture that data or qualify, to book a meeting or drive revenue. And so, I think the traditional exit pop, capture a cell phone and then send, marketing promotion is great. I mean, it works crazy, specifically for like e-commerce. But I think as you sort of get outside of that, how do you really add messaging in a way that can help you grow more effectively? And so that's our goal. We've got a pretty awesome platform, integrates super deep into different tools and systems. Just doing a simple audit on the business. Hey, do I have a web form? Am I capturing a phone number? What am I doing with that asset? Because it's an asset, right? The same as if you're capturing an email, you've got your email asset. Now you sort of have your phone asset. And, that can be through calling, but it also be through SMS, text messaging. So
I love some of the best use cases and applications are the most obvious, but also most overlooked, I feel like. So that makes a lot of sense.
It's usually the case. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all these insights. But before we hop, can you let people know where they could, learn more about you or Sales Message and connect online?
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it. They can go to salesmessage.com. take a look at our platform, sign up for a free trial, test it out. And again, we integrate really well into a lot of different tools and systems. But they can try it out, get a phone number, play around with it, and hack at it. So, but salesmessage.com. Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on. We'll edit it.
Sure.
Little mute thing there. For everybody listening, I appreciate you coming on, Chris. Thanks everyone for listening. As always, you can find me at brandonamoroso.com or scaleless.ai. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.